Hi, I am John Borzak, and I'm running for North Arlington Borough Council. After high school, I got into a lot of labor-intensive jobs. I've done landscaping. I got a third of that business. I worked for Giant Stadium. I worked at Food Town. I love dealing with people. That was one of my favorite things. But one of my biggest aspirations in life was to be in law enforcement. I wanted to be a detective. I loved it to work, you know. But one thing people didn't realize is, and they would make fun of me, the way I talk to the side of my mouth, sometimes I'm too loud, is because I'm permanently deaf in my right ear. 100% deaf in my right ear since I was born. Well, some people will say, well, John, why don't you get the surgery that Rush Limbaugh had with the cochlear? Well, I'm permanently born deaf. My cochlear and that is completely disconnected. Some of the doctors said that the cochlear is not even there. It just, that's the way I was born. And we went to many of medical doctors to see what surgeries, if there's any. And to this day of 2024, there is no surgeries to solve my current disability, which is permanently deaf in my right ear. As I was searching through law enforcement positions, cop, police, FBI was something I was interested in. I noticed that in order to be qualified for any law enforcement position, you had to have hearing in both ears. And sadly, I was permanently deaf in my right ear, so I had to venture off into a different career path. Having a disability and being deaf permanently in your right ear, it's not easy, but life is not easy. I'm not complaining, but day to day, sometimes you can't hear certain things if your mother's yelling at you, or if you can't hear the dog. And then one thing that affects me with my deaf ear, I could be hanging out with my friends, we're going for a walk. If somebody's talking, I don't even know sometimes who's talking, what side it's coming from, and so on and so forth. So, there's some life-altering things there. But one thing I suffer from time to time is tinnitus, which is a silent ringing in your ear, which is, annoying. I know a lot of people suffer from it. Tinnitus is a symptom that most people get when they're deaf. If people don't know what tinnitus is, it's a silent ringing in your ear, whooshing in your ear that can be debilitating at times. For instance, if I'm watching TV or I have a sports game on, the tinnitus is so bad I can hear it over the TV. It can just distract me mentally when I'm trying to focus and think. Sometimes it could be very debilitating where you can't hear a thing but the ringing. There's no cure for, so you got to kind of live with it, and I learned to live with it in my daily life. Well, someone like me who has a disability, who's deaf in one ear, it doesn't mean you can't do anything with your life. I see people on the streets all the time with disabilities, wheelchair, cane. It could be any disability. It could be a kid, it could be a parent, it could be an adult. Everyone's a special need, but just because you have a disability doesn't mean you can't be what you want to be. And people with disabilities have a big place in my heart because sometimes they get made fun of or they get casted out by their friends. And honestly, sometimes that can lead to suicide or depression for the people who are getting made fun of. And that is something that I have a big heart for and something that I'm not a fan of. But I talk to a lot of people, even if it's online, just to relate to what do you do with tinnitus or what do you do to cope with your deafness, because it's like a focus group together that you can get, all the information you want and share your stories, which I think is very helpful for any community with disabilities. With the focus groups that I'm in, one thing that you get benefited is everyone is experiencing the same thing you are when it comes to the tinnitus or the disability your thing is. So when you talk to other people, you kind of feel more normal that they're going through the same struggle as you. So that definitely helps you kind of cope with your struggle. So I think it's very important to tell your story to people, because there's more people out there than you think that have the same problem that you're suffering from. I think there should be a more bigger focus on special needs in North Arlington, whether it's multiple focus groups, so on and so forth, because like I said again, someone with a disability knows that there's a lot of other people out there with a disability. If I was to get elected to North Arlington Borough Council, one thing I would love to do is sponsor a special needs program. Someone who has a disability like myself can relate more to people with disabilities when it comes to those groups, because I could tell a story and they can share a story that might relate with both stories, and so on and so forth. So like I said again, I think special needs and disabilities should be more focused on in the town of North Arlington. I hope in November you cast your vote for John Borzak and John Yanpagula for North Arlington Borough Council. Thank you very much.